Welcome back to another episode of 10 in the Head. I'm ecstatic today because we have a guest on. It's fantasy football analyst and founder of erroneoussports.com, Aaron May. Aaron, I'm glad to have you on with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
My pleasure. I'm excited to have you here. What we're doing today is something a little different than normal. We're not doing 10 topics. We're doing 10 sleepers, our favorite sleepers of the 2017 season, and we're jumping right into it. My number 10 sleeper for the year is Marvin Jones. Now, Detroit lost Anquan Bolden. Marvin Jones was targeted 103 times last year, caught 55 of them, finished 2016 with a career high in yards of 930 because of those targets and receptions. He also finished with a career high yards per reception at 16.9. And the last thing I want to mention on Marvin Jones is he took the initiative to work out with Randy Moss during the offseason to focus on his route running and getting his legs stronger. So in my opinion, everything looks good for someone that Matt Stafford trusted, even with injuries, to come into this year and really fulfill what he wanted to do. That's my number 10 sleeper. Aaron, who you got as your number 10?
I got Carson Wentz in Philadelphia. He's coming in his second year. He's being taken in the 12th round right now. So he's a late round guy you can get, stock up on your other positions. And I really think he's going to make an impact his second year. Yeah, Pro Football Focus ranked the Eagles O-line number 1 in the NFL going into the season. And we saw what having a great O-line did for Dak Prescott last year. Wentz has the talent. He's a good athlete. And he's got the weapons that they've had in the offseason, like Garrett Blunt. You got to respect Garrett Blunt. Alshon Jeffrey, he's going to go up and get the ball. And I just really like Wentz, what the pieces in place for Wentz this season.
Amen. He's a great quarterback. Second year should be his time to shine. Jump into number 9. Me, tight end, Minnesota, Kyle Rudolph. I mean, the guy had the most tight end targets with 132, and because of those targets, he had a career high in receptions at 83, yards at 840. He has a quarterback that, in my opinion, does not like to spread the ball out. Or I guess I should say a quarterback that doesn't like to throw the ball deep and likes his completion percentage to be very high, as we saw last year. And that just bodes well for Kyle Rudolph. 5-10 yards out, he's going to be catching a lot of balls, getting a lot of targets, has the potential to get 8-9 touchdowns. And for someone going in the 8th round, that's a beautiful selection as a tight end. I have him as a possibility of being a top 5 tight end this year. So for me, number 9, Kyle Rudolph, tight end from Minnesota. Aaron, who you got at number 9?
Kyle Rudolph's a good pick, always consistent. My number 9 is John Brown out of Arizona. And, his ADP right now is 9th round. And, for a guy that not too long ago, 2015, he had 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, 65 catches, and the offense, you got to take care of David Johnson when you're playing them. And I really think Brown's fast enough. He's gonna be able to make plays up the field. And Carson Palmer really likes him. Great reports out of camp. The sickle cell trait, he's got it under control supposedly. And, he himself has said that the offense feels like it did back in 2015, when he had that great year. And the biggest thing for me this year with Brown is that it's a contract year. And we all know that these guys get paid.
Amen, baby. They love to get paid. John Brown's a great one. And sitting at your number 9, that's going to be fun to see who the next 8 ones are for you. Speaking of 8, let's jump into it. And for me, number 8, running back from Carolina, going in the 10th round right now, slated as running back 1 for Carolina, Jonathan Stewart. He's getting a lot of attention taken away from him with the new addition of Christian McCaffrey. And I'm just not high on McCaffrey this year. They're changing their whole team around him. I just don't see that happening, especially in his first year. So give me a guy who has 3 straight years of 800-plus yards, 2 straight years of 13 games, starting 13 games, I should say, 3 straight years of playing in 13 straight games. And something I want to mention, even with the addition of McCaffrey, the last year that Jonathan Stewart had D'Angelo Williams on his team, Stewart posted 809 yards on only 175 attempts, which is 4.6 yards per carry. He is entering the 30s this year, but he just seems to play better when there's another back there. He feeds off of the competition, is what I would say. Aaron, who you got?
Absolutely. That's a good pick. I mean, a lot of people are blinded by Christian McCaffrey, and they need to not forget about Jay Stu. My number 8 is CJ Prosise. Right now, he's going in the 8th round, the middle of the 8th round. And, I really like him because, again, Pro Football Focus ranked the O-line there in Seattle the worst in the NFL, number 32, and just bottom of the barrel. So, Russell Wilson's good when he's moving, but he's going to be really rushed, and I feel like that's where Grosseis has the most defined role in that offense is getting those dump-off passes, being able to make plays. We saw flashes of it last year. In 3 of the 6 games where he started, he had double-digit fantasy points and 80-plus yards receiving in 2 of those games. He's explosive, and I really like him because I'm not too sure Lacey is going to get it done, and I don't know if Rawls can stay healthy.
Yeah, I'm always timid on drafting Eddie Lacy. Lacy is he eats too much Chinese food for me to draft him in my fantasy team. And Rawls had the potential to be a number 1 running back and just couldn't get over the injury bug. So I love the CJ Prosise, especially if we're drafting PPR. That's a great choice for how late he's going. Big value there. Let's run to number 7 here. Yeah, yep. Number 7. My number 7 is running back from Green Bay, one of the 3 rookies they took in the draft this year. But he's the big physical back that they got, Jamal Williams. He's the guy who has the potential to get all the goal line touches. He plays behind a running back who I'm not sold on to take the reins for 16 games as a running back, Ty Montgomery. I'm just not sold that Montgomery's going to withstand the year. So at that point, what that tells me is I want to be focusing on their backup. There's a couple other running backs that I think the same way. And fantasy football is always about predicting the future. It's always, you can't, but you have to try. And in my opinion, I don't see Montgomery surviving. So give me Jamal Williams, who's coming out of BYU, posted an average of 5.4 yards per carry at BYU, and his senior year had over 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns. This, in my opinion, is going to be a solid late-round sleeper. Even if Montgomery stays healthy, we're going to see Williams vulture some carries, some touchdowns, and I have no problem taking a guy with the last pick in the 11th round, which is his ADP right now, who has the potential to get 6-7 touchdowns as a backup, and who knows where the limit is if he gets the starting position. Aaron?
Absolutely. I mean, I like Ty Montgomery, but you do make some good points. I mean, I don't know if he can do it for an entire year as a running back, so great pick. My number 7, Pierre Garçon out in San Francisco. He's going at the end of the 7th round. I mean, the guy's got experience, and you're looking at the 7th round, right? You want to stock up on running backs early because of position scarcity there. 7th round, you're getting a potential wide receiver too. I mean, the guy's got experience. He had 1,000 yards last season, and he was in a pretty crowded offense last season, I felt like. And now, he's going to be the wide receiver 1. He's got Brian Hoyer throwing him the rock, and it's just Hoyer took Hopkins to his best season, 1,500 yards, 11 touchdowns. And I just think Garçon's in a really good place. He's not going to be your top 10 guy, but I think you could get a solid wide receiver 2 in the 7th round there and be pretty solid elsewhere in your roster.
I definitely agree. I also have Garçon on my list. He's a couple down. I'll get a couple of more intakes on him there. But we're going to jump down to number 6 here. Number 6, getting almost halfway there, Jack Doyle, tight end, Indianapolis Colts. This guy is getting on everyone's radar. He's getting all the attention. They gave away starting running back Dwayne Allen for pennies to the dollar to New England, the defending Super Bowl champions, and then gave Jack Doyle an extension just to make sure that he was the top guy in the Colts tight end slot. He averaged 9.9 yards per reception, which is phenomenal in my opinion as a tight end. He has a quarterback that loves his tight ends, and if Luck can produce this year, Doyle has the potential to surpass almost all the tight ends that Indianapolis has produced over the last decade. He caught 59 of 75 passes thrown his way, which is a phenomenal amount. He was targeted 12 times in the red zone. He caught 9 of them, 4 of which were for touchdowns. There's just I'm right on the train, as everyone else seems to be, that Jack Doyle needs to be on your team if you're waiting late to get a tight end, or if you get Gronk, Reed early, and you want a backup tight end that should stay healthy. So I'm all about Jack. Aaron?
Yeah, you think you sold me on Jack there. My number 6, a guy he's just a guy that I have to have this year, and I want him on all my teams, and that's Tyrell Williams. He's going in the 11th round right now, which is just, to me, ridiculous. that it's that late in drafts. Like 11th round for a guy that last year had 7 touchdowns on 69 catches and over 1,000 yards. I mean, he finished the wide receiver 15, and he's, in some drafts, I'm sure he's going undrafted. And it's ridiculous. He was able to build a rapport with Phillip Rivers, who I think is in for a pretty good year as the wide receiver 1. And I mean, Keenan Allen's coming back, but there's always the health concerns. Is he going to stay healthy? And if he goes down, I mean, I think it's Tyrell Williams again. And it's just, you're getting top 12 potential from the 11th round, and you just can't pass that up. And the biggest thing is it's his 3rd year in the league. So breakout narrative is one of my favorite narratives because it always seems to hold true. I mean, the guy's only 25. Get Tyrell Williams on your team.
Get Tyrell Williams. Aaron May, you heard it first. I love it. Even with the addition of Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, he's still loving Tyrell, who showed great rapport with Phillip Rivers. It could be a phenomenal pick. Phenomenal. Let's jump to our halfway here. Pierre Garçon, number 5 for me. We had already talked about him a little bit, but this just shows any watchers, any listeners, that you really do want to be focusing on this guy. I mean, he's becoming the top receiver on Kyle Shanahan's team, and that is always a good thing to be. The Garçon's, I believe his last year, or at least his 2nd year with Kyle Shanahan in Washington, posted career highs in receptions at 113, posted career high in yards with 1,346. Now, Garçon is a model of consistency. He's played in 16 games for 4 straight seasons, 5 of the last 6. And like you mentioned, he has Hoyer throwing him the ball, who threw for over 300 yards in all 4 games that he started and finished in Chicago last year. Plus, something else you mentioned, when he made Hopkins a star receiver, Hopkins had 5 100-plus yard games while Hoyer was at quarterback. So everything seems to be leading to a great year for Pierre Garçon, and I'm all about getting him in the last pick of the 7th round. Oh, my gosh, I would gladly take a wide receiver 2 there, because at that point it should be about wide receiver 3 or 4 on my team. So I love Garçon. Aaron?
Don't pass him up. Don't pass him up.
Mm.
All right, my number 5, Adam Thielen. All right, in Minnesota. I mean, he's going in the 10th round. This is a guy you can get him late. You can probably get him later than that, in most drafts. And it's just he just signed a big contract that could pay up to $27 million. That just tells me that they want to get him involved. He's young. He's healthy. I mean, he had 967 yards last year, 5 touchdowns on 69 catches. And, I mean, he caught 75% of his passes, and that's just great consistency to me. And, I mean, why not trust him to do more and play a bigger role in the offense? But he's doing so well. I mean, his target increase from 2015, he had 12, to last year he had 92 targets. I mean, so they obviously have picked up that he's a playmaker. And I just think that with Diggs out there, it's really going to help him. People might want to say, oh, it's Stephon Diggs is getting all the targets. But I feel like with Diggs out there, I've watched some Adam Thielen tape, and he's not a great separator. In my opinion, that's his one area of weakness, but he can make the plays, he can make the catches, and you got to cover Diggs, and I think that's going to give him a lot of help.
Yeah, we all saw what happened with Laquan Treadwell last year. I mean, 1 catch, 15 yards. If he has the potential to break out, then I think he's on the wrong team. Thielen has the darn good potential to rack up over 100 targets and hopefully bust over for 1,000 yards. That's a good number 5. Let's run on to number 4 here. For me, quarterback, Los Angeles Chargers, going in the 10th round, Phillip Rivers. He finished number 6 last year in quarterback rankings. He's going as the 14th quarterback this year, only with the additions of Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, still has Tyrell Williams, as we mentioned before, Dontrell Inman, one of the best pass-catching running backs in the league, Melvin Gordon, who can easily get him a lot of lazy points, which I love for quarterbacks. I don't understand why he's going so late. And it may be because of his errant throwing. He's got a lot of interceptions, but the guy consistently gets you over 30 touchdowns and over 4,200 yards for the last 4 or 5 years. I have no problem waiting and grabbing Rivers in the 10th round. Or even if I'm drafting early quarterback, someone who has a high potential of an injury or maybe not succeeding to where we want. Derek Carr, for example, Jameis Winston, Ben Roethlisberger, all these players kind of lead me to maybe want to draft a second quarterback. And if Rivers is there, I got no problem getting him. He could be a great sleeper this year in the 10th round. Aaron?
Yeah, I agree with you on Rivers, and I mean he's kind of a guy where I would take him. I start him as much as possible, but maybe on some of the tougher matchups, I stream a different quarterback, something like that. But he's great value where he's at. He's been an elite quarterback in the league, and he's been great for fantasy. My number 4, Devontae Parker. You know, a lot of people have been big on him and are big on him, but I love him too. I'm with the people on this one. Devontae Parker's going in the 8th round. He's underperformed, but I mean, he's going into his 3rd year. We've already talked about. Love the 3rd-year narrative. He's got big playability on the deep ball. We saw it last season. The deep ball potential is there. He's a big physical guy. Ajayi, everybody thinks Ajayi is going to have a big year, and I can see it happening. So that presence, I feel like, is going to open it up for him, and that's definitely going to help that deep ball play, that playmaking ability. He's getting the system continuity with the playbook and with Tannehill, and he's already getting that rapport with Tannehill. And, I mean, targets have gone up for him. He's gone from 90 targets last year up from 51 the year before. So Tannehill wants to get the ball in his hand. They want to get him the ball. There are the health concerns, but if he can get 16 games, I really like him to have a big year.
You got to love the 3rd-year narrative. I mean, it just seems to statistically always show that wide receiver is really going to break out. Whether it's just a great pick right there. I love Devontae Parker. Wrote an article highlighting him as my number 1 3rd-year receiver. I love it. That's number 4. We're jumping to number 3 here. For me, it's the guy that you had number 9. I got way higher, and I don't care where you want to rank him in any sleeper list. For anyone listening, watching, get John Brown. John Smokey Brown. He is coming, like you said, off of his injury. He's looking like he's his old self in OTAs right now. I mean, he had over 1,000 yards the last year he wasn't injured. He's been targeted over 100 times in his first 2 seasons. He has the best rusher in the game, which will only just creep the safeties in, allowing for play actions to give John Brown that opportunity to speed down the sideline and really have the potential to get a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns. If Palmer can get back to his 2015 self, which it seemed like he was at the end of the year, finishing the last 8 games with 7 of those 8, 2 touchdowns, a lot of yards, this all seems to bode well for John Brown. So I'm loving John Brown. You heard it here. We both like John Brown. Make sure you're trying to target him in any draft that you're doing. Aaron?
Go get him. All right, my number 3 is Randall Cobb, and I feel like a lot of people have forgotten about Randall Cobb because of the big year that Devontae Adams had last year. And Adams is a great player, but the year before, I mean, he was just awful. And I mean, one great year, I'm not buying Adams over Cobb for one great year. I mean, Cobb he's been around, he's got the rapport with Rodgers, and I mean, Rodgers is throwing him the ball. Come on, I mean, you're taking him in the 8th round. The guy's catching passes from one of the best quarterbacks of all time, and he's being targeted in the red zone by one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I mean, all of his touchdowns last year came from inside the 10-yard line, and so he's going to score touchdowns. And if Adams goes down, we've seen Cobb step in and be that receiver. I mean, he's been a 1,000-yard receiver. He had 1,200-plus yards in 2014, 12 touchdowns, finished the wide receiver 7 in fantasy that year. And, I mean, he's only going on 27 years old. I'm big on Randall Cobb this year because I don't believe in Adams after one season, and I do believe in Aaron Rodgers' red zone targets. So, you're Randall Cobb.
Gotta love Randall Cobb. He led me to a championship a couple years ago with this 1,000 yards, and I've always liked him since. I have no problem with Randall Cobb as a number 3 sleeper. I love it. Let's go to number 2. We're getting close to the end here. Number 2 for me, Jeremy Maclin, wide receiver, Baltimore. The newest addition in Baltimore. Comes into a team that threw the ball 652 times last year. I will repeat that. 652 times, an extreme amount. I'm not thinking that Baltimore will throw that much again this year, but they're going to throw the ball a lot. Under offensive coordinator Marty Morningwig, as a Lions fan, I know that he's going to want to throw the ball. So that puts Maclin at a chance to get back to his last 2 years before his injury-plagued 2016 season, where he posted over 1,000 yards. He improves at quarterback, in my opinion, from Alex Smith to Joe Flacco. And everything just seems to be Jeremy Maclin is the number one wide receiver in Baltimore if he can build rapport with Flacco. And he signed early enough in the offseason where he has the potential to quickly learn the playbook, get on the same page as Flacco, and really just produce 1,000 yards plus, hopefully 8-9 touchdowns. And if you're going to be going in the 8th round looking for a wide receiver 3 or 4, he could be the guy that is a steal if he can play great. So I'm loving Maclin at number 2. Aaron?
Okay, I'm not going to say much about Maclin. I'll get to him a little bit later. But, yeah, you make a good point about Maclin. You know, he definitely could be a steal. Could turn out to be a good one. My number 2 sleeper, Kareem, out in Kansas City. So you got a former chief. I got a new chief. And, I mean, I really like the film I've seen on this guy. You know, he's pretty runner. He's got great instincts, great vision. I kind of compare him to a Le'Veon Bell type. Maybe not as good, but he could be. You never know. I mean, he's great at bouncing the outside when there's none up the middle. And he's a good pass catcher. You know, he's a great pass catcher. And that's always something you want with Alex Smith, who can't throw the ball farther than 12 yards. I mean, the Chiefs traded up to draft him this year, and Ware has kind of been disappointing. I mean, through 14 games last year, Ware had 3 touchdowns. He didn't break 1,000 yards, and that's just, I mean, I feel like the Chiefs are going to want to, they invested in this guy, and they're going to want to use him. Ware's going to get this time, and I really like Kareem Hunt to come in and make an impact.
Kareem Hunt, the rookie, you heard it there. Number 2 from Aaron May. Let's go to our number 1 sleeper, 2017. For me, it's a guy that I'll talk about every day, all day, someone who I've talked about all offseason. Running back for New England, Mike Gillislee. The guy led the league in yards per carry with running backs over 100 attempts. He had 9 touchdowns on 101 attempts last year. He goes to a team whose 2016 leading rusher posted 18 touchdowns. The guy's elusive, can run through people, and on a team that can easily get a 21-0 lead in the first quarter and will want to run the ball, that's your guy. He's going to get the goal line carries for New England, which for me is always a guy that I will reach for. If he's going 8th pick, 6th round right now, I'm taking him 1st pick, 5th round to solidify his spot on my team with no questions in the back of my mind. I don't know why he's going so late. Some people might be worried that Rex Burkhead might be taking the number 1 role, or maybe it's finally the year for James White or Deion Lewis to be the stud in New England. Those are great backs and potentially good 3rd down backs, but in my opinion, first two downs, Mike Gillislee is going to be taking the helm. He is just he's the man. Get Mike Gillislee from Nick Faber. You heard it here. Get Mike Gillislee. Aaron?
Get Mike Gillislee. I mean, if I'm being honest, after talking to you about him the other day, I did move him up in my rankings. So you sold me on him. You know, the thing you did mention is that the reason he's going so late, I think, is because of all the other backs that are there. People aren't sure. But Mike Gillislee, I really like it. Great pick. My number 1. Now, this is kind of where I wanted to move the Jerry Maclin, because my number 1 is Danny Woodhead. Not so much a sleeper, I mean, because people are pretty woke on Danny Woodhead. I mean, he's going in the 6th round. Flacco hasn't had a back like him in that backfield, in recent years, and Flacco is going to use him. He's going to dump it off to him. I mean, the guy is dynamic out of the backfield. You just have to use him. Flacco has talked about it this offseason. Couldn't believe, what a great athlete Danny Woodhead is and how good he is in his role. And I mean, the last 2 16-game seasons the guy's played, he's had 1,360 yards, 156 receptions on 12 touchdowns on 192 targets. I mean, that's ridiculous. Compared to the Ravens' backs the last 2 years, total, all the backs in the backfield have had 862 yards, 135 receptions, and only 4 touchdowns. It's just ridiculous what the guy's capable of. I personally right now have him having more receptions than Mike Wallace, and I could see him having more receptions than that by the end of the year.
That's a quick hot take, and I love it. There's the 10 sleepers from Aaron May and Nick Faber. It's been a great show. I absolutely love it. We're going to be having Aaron on continuously throughout the season as a reoccurring guest. Aaron, if anyone wants to go read any of your work or see anything that you do, where would they find you at?
You can find us on erroneousports.com. That's AARONEOUS sports.com. And I mean, we've got it all. We've got fantasy rankings getting updated almost daily. We've got some great articles from myself, from Nick, and a couple other people. We're trying to get on board. During the season, you can ask the Oracle about your fantasy player's future. We're going to have start 'em and sit 'em. It's going to be great. There's a lot of content. You can sign up for the Coach's Playbook. Check it out, erroneousports.com and @erroneousports on Twitter. Appreciate it. Thanks, Nick.
Hey, my pleasure, my pleasure. If you're trying to find 10 in the Head, you subscribe on YouTube, 10 in the Head. You'll always get updates on our new shows. If you don't want to use YouTube, you can always go on Twitter. Find me at Nick Faber 1229, at Nick Faber 1229. And if you don't like Twitter, go to Facebook, facebook.com/10inthehead. And again, follow. You'll get updates on our newest episodes. It's been a great episode, 10 Sleepers. Aaron, thanks for being on with us.
Thanks again.
My pleasure. Everyone have a good one.